Hello and welcome to Bargain Bin. It's a video game podcast where we talk about games usually $15 and under. I say usually to give us a little wiggle room in case one coming up might be like $16.50.
Wink, 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 wink.
But that's not this week. This week we are talking about a double feature after we had a couple weeks off while Jamie and I were in Portugal playing some Ultimate Frisbee. Jamie, what games are we talking about today?
Well, the exciting thing about this week is that our two games combined are both still under $10 even. We got some cheap games this week.
Cheapies.
The first one is The Apothecary of Trubiz, and the second one is Snowfall's Mystery. Should I go ahead and jump in, explain what they're about?
Let's dive right in. I think you'll explain the prices of each when we get in. You said they're both under 10. They're real cheap.
Yeah. And real short.
Real short. So
we've had some longer, more expensive still being under 15 games. So this was a little something different.
Yeah, and trending toward our future desire to hopefully do some free games too in here. Not really free to play, but kind of developers just release them on Steam. Maybe it's just a little project, and the shorter games is kind of a fun thing to do as well because we're both busy people sometimes, and we appreciate games that are little bite-sized experiences, and that's what these are. So we're happy to bring them to you.
Well, let's go ahead and start with The Apothecary of Trubiz. So I'll just kind of read the summary that was on the Steam game because I feel like that sums it up well, and we'll keep this short. So The Apothecary of Trubiz is a short puzzle game where you decipher a fictional language, mix potions, and treat patients. Enjoy the thrill of understanding and the small stories that unfold from each cure. So kind of as it says and as the title indicates, you are an apothecary in the game and you have patients coming in and you have to give them the correct potions and medicines to cure their ailments, but all you have to work from is a booklet with a foreign language and pictures. So you're deciphering a language as you're also crafting different potions and seeing what you get with different combinations and then trying to figure out what ailments they help cure. So definitely a puzzle game. It was very short. I didn't look how many hours it took me, but I feel like probably just a couple or something. The developer on Steam was under Kinjo Games Lab. It seems like it's just a solo dev who's maybe made one other game. I think they're maybe located in Japan, and the price of this game was $3.99.
It definitely seems like they're located in Japan because remember when we turned on the game, we were like, whoa, is it going to be a double deciphering game? Because it was in Japanese first, and we had to switch the language over. It's also I feel worth mentioning that it's in the exact same genre as a Chants of Sennaar, which was kind of the most recent, very popular game that was a deciphering another fake language game, which I think you played a little bit more of than me. But we both played it.
I finished it.
Yeah, you finished it.
Yeah.
So you definitely played more than me. But we both played a decent amount of it. At least each of us played a decent amount of it. At most, each of us finished it.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know who was who.
And we know who was who, so that was kind of an inefficient way of saying that. But I got about halfway through. So when you think if you're a gamer with a capital G, and you've been playing games since 2023, then you'll probably know Chants of Sennaar and maybe you've played it. So it's one of those, but super micro relative to that. That was a
certainly
tens of hours game, and this was a 1 or 2 hour game.
Yeah.
I think off the bat, one of the things that I really liked about it was its art style. It kind of knew what it was going for. Pixely graphics, your little area where you're making and storing potions was cute and set up nicely, I thought. There's also a bit of a Tunic vibe to it if we're going with other comparisons, because off the bat you're given this manual, and it's the story is you're brought in as an apothecary to kind of this, I think, ancient lab, or maybe serving the residents of a town using these potions
Yeah, I think they just needed like a sub-in apothecary for like a week.
Right, and they
In the
pick
game.
someone who doesn't know the language. So you're like giving
Right,
these
because the
cures.
manual's in like an ancient language.
Yeah, and so you're given this manual that has all the answers and what to do, but you're kind of filling it in as you go and as you learn from the pictures and from like trial and error of putting potions together, cooking them at different temperatures, and doing other things that we won't spoil for you. But it's interesting in that kind of you have all the answers off the bat, and the deciphering part is figuring out exactly what the book means.
Story-wise too, I guess, I don't know if this like attracted your attention at all, but you know, it has like different endings you can get of having like correctly cured everyone, having not cured anyone, and kind of the in-between, which I thought was like a fun little way to make it enticing to like go back through the very short game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to put this off talking about it. I personally thought that was like, I don't know. It didn't entice me to go back through, which I feel like was what the game was trying to get you to do as you like learn the language and become more precise with it and try to get these different endings. Like there's some that you can kind of luck into, like maybe 3 of them, and then there's 2 that you like need to know exactly what the language is to get, which is like you cure everyone and you like make everybody sick, which I thought was a funny ending that you could strive for. But to do either of those, you kind of have to know exactly what combinations of potions to give people. And I guess that's like the ideal end game for the developer is like replayability, almost like a roguelike in that way, with like increased mastery of the language as someone goes, and eventually like trying to get all the endings and complete the game in that sense. I only went through like 1.5 times. I found it a little bit hard to get any farther than that. I'm wondering like what you thought about like the replayability aspect before we get into kind of the just mechanics of what you're actually doing.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I mean, I think like, as you know, because I was asking you how to figure out the last potions, I struggled with like one last cure or potion combo, and I could not for the life of me figure it out, which was a bit infuriating to me. And that was, I think, my only like big qualm on some of the deciphering was that there was one that just like felt really tricky for me to figure out, even when I knew kind of what the language was saying, but then I couldn't like, it was like not deciphering the language, it was like deciphering what the manual was trying to tell me to do. I was like, what the heck? So that was like my only qualm with the game, but...
Right. I feel like games like this, without fail, at least in my experience, even if you're like vibing with them and you are in flow and kind of getting the puzzles, there's always going to be something that you kind of butt your head up against a lot, which I guess
Certainly.
is like the joy of it for folks. Like I definitely did that with Chants of Sennaar a lot, but then when you get it, it's way more gratifying. So
Right. I feel like for a game like that to be fun, you have to risk the really, like you have to make it hard enough that those moments are going to come up for the people playing it, and that's what makes it enjoyable, but can also make it frustrating.
And a note on these types of games in general, I'm not as much sure about this game since it's so short, but certainly in the genre is like, I love that they reward patience and they reward putting the game down when you're getting frustrated, taking a walk or something and coming back to it with like a new mind, and a fresh perspective. It can do a lot for progressing in the game, and that I feel like applies a lot to whether it's work or creative pursuits or whatever in real life. It's like putting it away and coming back to it is so refreshing, and I love that games and this type of game in particular can kind of show us that exactly.
Yeah, it's always nice when games give us little life lessons.
We love that. That's a very Johnny Jamie thing to love. But let's go ahead and dig into kind of like the moment by moment gameplay of Apothecary of Trubiz, because I feel like we've talked about, you know, what other games it's like and the endings and like the replayability, but we haven't really discussed what you're actually doing. So it's like based on a day by day schedule, which I think it's like a week long. right? Or is it 2
Yeah.
weeks? I think it's
I can't
7
remember
days.
if it was 7 or 10 days.
Yeah.
Something around then.
Yeah, so each day, like maybe 3 to 5 patients come in, or maybe like 1 to 3. Again, not exactly
Somewhere around
sure.
that.
Somewhere around that many patients come in, and they have like I think 1 to 3 ailments where they're like, my throat hurts, or I'm coughing, or I have a headache. Or
Yeah. And there are icons associated with each of those.
Right, that you have to decipher. And you give them either one or a series of potions that you have on a little shelf, and you can do very basic actions during the day at any time to like try to make new potions. So you can like combine potions, heat them up, a number of different things that we won't spoil. But once you make these different potions, you're kind of like at first through trial and error trying to figure out like what cures what hurt, like what makes something worse, what combinations of potions make something worse. And you just do that by like dragging the potion onto the person to try to see how it affects them. And they'll like respond with like, I feel all the way better, or I feel a little better, or I feel way worse, or nothing happened.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the game. Once you're done like giving potions to people, which like you can try every potion on every person, and it actually records that, which I think is cool. You can click like, I'm good, and the day ends and you move on to the next one. And that's kind of the deal.
Yeah. And that pretty much sums it up. I mean, like we said, it's a short game, so the mechanics really aren't too in depth. I mean, I guess you didn't really entirely talk about the deciphering part, which is just like the foreign language in the manual. You can select the different words and then type in like your estimate of what it means. And unlike Chants of Sennaar, where there's eventually like a way to actually confirm and check what you've written in, there's not that for this. So you really can type anything, like little notes to yourself, reminders to yourself, but there's not then ultimately a way to ever confirm if you were correct, which could be nice to some who just want to write whatever they want to write, and frustrating to others who like the affirmation of a little check mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that it just wasn't really hitting for me was like what this game was going for, because I can see, as far as like where it sits within this genre, because I can see people who are really into puzzles, really into doing stuff without manuals and deciphering things, like get really into trying to be precise with their language so that they can get all 5 endings. But at the same time, that kind of like, I think those people would rather play a longer game or like have something that's more immersive. Whereas, you know, for a shorter game, maybe for more casual players who like want to have some of the puzzle elements but aren't as into like deciphering every word perfectly, it doesn't give the satisfaction of actually like knowing if it's the right answer. I mean, outside of like knowing if you cure or don't cure people. And I think in that vein, giving the multiple endings gives casual people a way to be like, oh, I finished this game, like I'm done with it, I played it for an hour, without like actually doing all that much puzzling or like solving. And so it straddles a line in a pretty problematic way, I think, in my mind, where it's like in some elements it's really demanding a lot from players, without, you know, with not giving the exact answers on things and etc., while also letting players off the hook with those multiple endings.
Yeah, because I guess for me, like the one potion combo that I didn't end up figuring out, I think I felt pretty driven to figure it out, but then just couldn't and got so frustrated. But then since I had reached the quote unquote ending, like I think it did give me a certain level of satisfaction. Whereas if the ending felt like I had to figure out all the words and all the potion combos, then I think I would have been more upset because I didn't get it.
Totally. Yeah, it's an interesting like psychological experiment in that way, where it's like you could be frustrated on something and like really driven to solve it and not, and feel that frustration, but then when you're given an ending, it kind of like lessens it to a degree and makes it less of like a problem or something to go back to, which I don't think is like good or bad. I'm not a huge fan of like recommending that people bump their head up against a game for like, if it's not bringing them some kind of joy, you know, like there's no reason to just like grit through something just to say you played it. But Yeah, I mean, it provides less of an incentive in that way, where it doesn't gives you the clarity of an ending, at least one ending, without like the clarity of knowing if you did it all right or not.
Right. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess, again, kind of like the aspect of that is it's not focusing so much on the language deciphering being correct, but more on the potions and ailment remediation being correct, because you do get confirmation on like if your potions are working for the correct ailments, and that's the thing that they do give you a check mark on, or like, no, that wasn't right.
Totally. I think like for me it plays as a completely casual experience.
Yeah.
And I just don't see, for me personally, I don't feel relaxed by games like this. Like my mind gets very engaged and I have to be in a certain mood to play them. And so for me, it didn't feel as rewarding as a game I'm like putting a lot of time and effort into. Well, I'm not putting a lot of time into, a lot of mental effort into, because there wasn't that payoff of like, hey, you got it exactly right. Now move on to the next thing. And that's kind of the mode I like to be in with games like this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and that's probably, I think, just kind of some of the differences between you and I on the things we like, because, yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I loved it being like a short little kind of cozy game where I could like solve puzzles and work my brain in that way. Like I wanted to mention, I did love that I feel like the combination of puzzles was like sometimes you're figuring it out from just trying stuff with the potions, and sometimes you're figuring it out from actually the things you're deciphering. So I did like appreciate the balance between like how you're figuring things out between the two different methods, which I enjoyed. But yeah, kind of back on what you mentioned, like I feel like I really enjoyed this game and kind of the mind space it put me in for the short amount of time. But I also enjoy puzzle games, and yeah, really liked Chants of Sennaar.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it too. I thought it was like well executed for what it wanted to be as a shorter experience. I just think there were parts of it that like made the ultimate payoff unsatisfying.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, I think one of the bigger thoughts I had coming away from the game is that, and maybe this ties into that, is that I don't know if it really felt right as like the length that it was. Like, I guess I did, like, I enjoyed it, but I also felt like a little dissatisfied, or like I felt my mind kind of thinking like, oh, like, you know, it could have done this, or it could have had these elements. Like if it was a bigger game, if it was a longer game, like more, you know, time, effort, energy, money put into the development, like it could have done these things. Like I feel like I kept having a lot of thoughts of like the potential it could have had, but that it wasn't. So I guess maybe for what it was, I enjoyed it, but felt like there was so much untapped potential of what like it could have been.
For sure. And I feel like a lot of the reason we're doing this podcast is like finding space for different games in your life, you know, whether you're listening or whether you're, you know, we're doing the show and we love like finding space for these games. I feel like the problem I have with a game like this is like, just totally speaking from my own personal, you know, experience and use of games, like I would rather fill the puzzle game deciphering spot with like a game that rewards me more, because there are games out there that do that. And not like holds my hand. Like I think one of the things I loved about Return of the Obra Dinn was like, it's not holding your hand, but it does have that like you can check your answer and like fist pump when you know it's exactly right. And I know that's something that a lot of people have liked about the recent release of a game called Blueprints, which is a color-based like architecture puzzle game that I think you would love. So maybe we'll get a little binnable moment on that later on. But yeah, I think one of the things people love about games like that is it's abstract enough that it doesn't hold your hand, but it does like allow you the moment of like, yes, I got it. And I thought this game was a little in between in that sense. And I think that was its main shortcoming. Other than that, I thought it was a very charming game, like art style. I thought it was like pretty well designed as far as like the deciphering and the like cures and the mechanics there, like I think we're all very well done. It would be super hard to do that as a solo developer, so hats off to this person making those kind of decision trees. And the only other thing I wanted to chat about with you was its like handheld capability to be played, because we played this I think predominantly each on planes on our Steam Decks, and for me, it was a pretty bad experience. I would say definitely go for a like keyboard when you have this, because you're typing in the words. But it was fine.
Yeah, I feel like it. It definitely wasn't set up for controller or Steam Deck necessarily yet. But there were you could like use the little spinny touchpad thing to like move the cursor around, which I don't know. I mean, maybe that is kind of a good thing to bring up, because it's definitely more set up, I think, for keyboard and mouse. But then like I don't know, like it's kind of one of those games again that I would be like, oh, like it'd be a nice game to play on like a commute, like on the train or something like that. But if it's not as set up for a Steam Deck or handheld device and you're sitting at your computer, then maybe you do want to be playing something like a bit more extensive.
Yeah, I think unless you are okay with like clicking the Steam Deck keyboard on and off a lot, which like I frankly am not very much and had to be doing that a lot for this game, I would super recommend doing it on like a laptop or a PC, or like attaching a Bluetooth keyboard and like docking your Steam Deck if possible. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I didn't have as big of issues with it.
That seems to be the theme of the day. All right, Jamie, anything else you want to say about this one?
I don't think so. I feel pretty ready to jump into the endorsement section of it.
All right, let's go for it.
Okay. I think I would endorse it.
It's close for me. I know I've said a lot of negative things about it, but I really did enjoy it. And I like games that are short and pretty well executed, and that's certainly what this was. For me, it mostly just comes down to like my personal preferences, and my personal preference is to have a puzzle game that has those rewards. And also like the fact that the game is short, I think doesn't do it any favors when its payoff isn't like correct or like long lasting. So it's close for me, but I'm going to give it a no. No endorse from me.
Is this our first split endorsement?
This is our first split no, I think. Or
that's
yes,
so
no.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think this is the type of moment, correct me if I'm wrong, where the listener can kind of rely on their understanding of our gaming preferences to kind of guide their hand here. I mean, this is an interesting case because like it's $250 or whatever. How much was it?
$3.99.
It's $3.99. So I mean, people's budgets are tight, and I know that that there's not everyone has the funds to be gaming all the time, or at least with different games. But I mean, $4. If you're at all curious, it's worth supporting the developer, I think. But just I digressed there. I think like the point is when we have split decisions, it's like it's indicative that the game is quality, particularly when it's a close split decision like this.
Yeah.
But maybe it's for someone who's not a like firmly in the lane of I'm a puzzler, it might not be the right thing. But for someone who enjoys puzzle games or likes checking out different puzzle games, I think this would be a perfect entry for them. So
yeah,
go on your understanding of me and Jamie.
Right. And I feel like, again, for me, it was like a cozy short game that like I just enjoyed playing. I feel like it would be like kind of a great like short palate cleanser. Like I kind of picture if I've been knee deep in a platformer for a long time, like I'm playing Nine Souls right now and I want to play Hollow Knight soon. Like, it could be like a nice little palate cleanser game to play between a style of game that you just need a break from or something like that.
Definitely. It's also the kind of game that I would just love up on a monitor, like me not playing, but like it in the background. Like there's a little cheery music. There's the atmosphere.
Oh, I can totally picture it on one of the Instagram reels of someone's like cozy, vibey gaming setup. And that's what you have up on the monitor screen with a bunch of plants and mushrooms on the desk.
Yeah, definitely. If you're making content, check this one out because it's a great 1 hour games you'll love for your cozy gaming setup.
Right. So all you gaming influencers listening to our podcasters influencers? No, that's very different.
Content creators.
I guess we're all creators of the content.
I had one more question for you about this game, Jamie. It has to do with an element that I have a problem with that I haven't mentioned and just remembered, which was when you had more potions than shelf slots. Did you have that problem? Because for me, I had a ton of potions and I overflowed my shelf slots, and then I had to kind of have them just hover on the screen, and sometimes when I use them they would disappear. I had a big problem with that, frankly.
Did you figure out that you could, I guess, spoiler alert, don't listen to this part if you want to figure all these things out on yourself by yourself, that you can drag and move the shelves?
No.
So there's a second shelf behind the first one.
Ah.
Yeah. So that took me a while to figure out too, and it was just because I was trying to solve the last potion situation. But yeah, those were some of the smaller aspects of the game where I'm that was a little tricky or could have been better designed potentially.
Nah, that's a puzzle element that is built into the UI, which I will say this has a lot of clever little UI puzzle oriented things with it. So
yeah,
hats off to the developer for that too. Sweet. I think we can move on to the next game jam.
Yeah.
Haha. Game jam.
I don't get it.
It's like a thing where developers will do build a fighting game in 2 days.
Oh.
So it's like a game jam.
Ha 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 ha.
And you're Jamie and I call you Jam. So let's move on to the next game jam.
So funny. I am just a game jam. That'll be pretty fun. I wouldn't mind being a game jam. Okay, next game, Snowfall's Mystery. Woo. So again, I'll read the Steam summary for this. Snowfall's Mystery is a psychological interactive novel about a floppy disk with a mysterious program. Help Elliot cope with his mental issues and uncover the secret of the floppy disk. So this was released on November 4th by the developer on Steam, at least under the name Sempiternal Rain. It did look like they have some other games out there, and in fact, I think at the end of this game it mentioned that it was a demo or some.
It was
sequel.
part of a multiverse or universe that the developer is they're putting different games into, where it's it's similar to the game we're playing next week, actually, where I think the developer is making games in the same universe, but they're distinct experiences.
Right. And this one seemed definitely more intentionally just kind of a small little thing within that world.
Oh yeah.
And so this game is $2.99, and I'm going to guess, I believe it's by a Russian developer. I think the base language is Russian, but then you can change the text.
Or it could just be, I don't want to assume about if they're from Russia. It could just be from a country that is close to Russia that was historically in the USSR and something like that.
That is, very valid.
Yeah, so we don't want to assume that, but they do use the Russian language in this game.
Yes.
And I think in the game, it's a period piece technically. And I think it's set in Yugoslavia, which is it's not Russia. It's it used to be, Yugoslavia is no longer a country. It's it's a smattering of current countries formerly known as Yugoslavia, and in this case, since it's a period piece, it was in Yugoslavia. So,
but it also well, I guess I don't know. You're
saying there are computers in it?
Well, there's just so much talk of AI. I mean, maybe we'll dive into this with like what we think of the writing.
It's fucking terrible. It's fucking horrible. But let's start with the positives. There's one point in this game that I enjoyed, which was like your character's walking through like a creepy wasteland type deal with like different jagged drawings. And
was that with like the black background and all the red art?
And it kind of reminded me of like Twin Peaks. That was really cool. The rest of it is absolute crap, in my opinion. I feel bad because someone I know maybe worked hard on it, but like the writing's terrible. There's like no interaction, but like it still asks you to like do like weird little fetch quests at points.
Yeah.
The characters have no depth to them. They're like, the whole like central conflict is this guy's friend gives him a floppy disk and he like puts it in his computer and then like starts interacting with it just in like a bonkers way. Like he's like, oh my God, like the admin. And it's like, what? Who is that?
Really?
They don't introduce anything.
None of the writing makes any sense, which is tough for a narrative-driven game.
It's fully voiced in Russian.
Yeah.
So you're just listening to Russian while you read the English, which is fine, but it's off-putting to me based on just like Russia. That might be like, it might be showing my prejudice, but like, I personally don't love hearing the Russian language and just with current events. And you hear a lot of it with this game, which I didn't like, but shouldn't be an official knock.
As someone more just ignorant of what the Russian language sounds like, I thought the voice acting was nice.
Yeah, it was certainly something. The art style is really weird.
Okay, so I will say, I mean, something that I thought was cool was, and I think we chose different ones. At the very start of the game, you can choose between two different art styles. I think we might have picked different ones. I picked the more like realistic one. I think you picked the more...
I picked anime. I mean, it was basically anime.
Okay, well now I don't know if we... Wasn't there like a more kind of like pixely game-like one?
It was just anime and real person looking.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe I picked the more real looking one.
Obviously, like it's stylized, so it's not gonna look like photorealistic.
Right.
But one was like more like a portrait, and one was more like this is an anime character.
Okay, interesting.
Which like I would be I personally wonder if this developer used AI to develop some of this game because like
the game was all about AI too.
And the art during some of these interactions is like so generic. I'm like, there could just have been nothing on screen and I would prefer this.
Is this like talking about like when you're able to like move the little characters around or when it's like showing the actual art on the screen? Yeah, when it's like kind
of a cutscene style where you're just clicking through it.
Yeah.
And like you're talking to your pharmacist who you're also kind of in love with, I guess.
Right.
And she's like, you need a pill. Also, I have this floppy disk too. And you're like, I need a pill. I'm going to fucking die. And then she's like, here's a pill. Wait, I can't give it to you. You don't have a prescription. And then you're like, okay, I fucking die.
Yeah.
And then she's in your apartment and you're like, I can't do this. You knew my sister. And I'm just like, what is any of this?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, there's one part of me that wonders, like, as I found myself being like, was like the developer going through similar mental health stuff? Like, the only kind of like more positive thing I can think of it is like just being able to like peek into maybe the mental health struggles of someone else's mind, but it didn't feel relatable in a way of like I've gone through mental health struggles. I was like, I mean, is this a look into like how other people experience the world, or is it just really bad writing and storytelling?
This seems bad to say considering I don't have empathy for whatever this fictional character was going through, if it's a real like set of symptoms, but like it just seemed totally unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like he would get a little like confused by this floppy disk that his friend gave him, and then he would like crash out. Like he would faint and like I don't know. Like, it wasn't like he was being triggered. Like, emotional trauma was not being triggered. It was like he would be confused by something and then, like, be like, I need coffee and a cigarette and a pill or I'm going to die.
Right.
And he said that, like, every time anything went wrong.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, like, in an anxiety way. It didn't seem like. It was more just, like, I guess to move the story forward or to create some kind of stakes. It didn't... To me, it felt not real at all. So I don't feel bad about saying like this isn't very representative of, I think, mental health struggles. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
If you crash out every time your friend sends you a software program that you don't understand, then I apologize and send us a note.
Yeah. If you send us a note, I guess we'll apologize on the pod.
Yeah, we'll apologize on air. But I'm not going to apologize for hella not endorsing Snowfall's Mystery.
Yeah, no, it was very bad.
Not really worth talking about further, in my opinion, unfortunately.
Not really. It was definitely... I mean, the only reason I got through it is because I knew how short it was. I feel like it was kind of in the realm of Launderly, where I very quickly got to a point where I was just like, I don't want to open this game again. And I'm just like mashing A to get through the dialogue, but I knew it was short, so I knew I could do it.
I think comparing Launderly in this game, there's only one way where I would stomach it, because I thought Launderly was still so much better than this. The one way I can stomach it where I think both of them went wrong, in Snowfall's Mystery's case, extremely wrong. In Launderly's case, I still think pretty wrong, but like I enjoyed a lot more of Launderly than this. Which was like, it's a solo dev, like getting way too deep into like their own like mythology shit and like not explaining enough of it and not really like not making the connection to an audience, which like I love that for them, that they're making art that they obviously love making. If you spend the time on a video game to make it like that's an investment of love in a lot of these little game cases, because they're not making a ton of money from them.
Right.
But like it's the sort of thing where games are ostensibly like meant to be played, and I really don't think this game like earns it like being played.
Yeah, it does feel like it was just made for the developer.
Totally. And like, while I think games like Launderly that maybe I still wouldn't endorse, or even Apothecary of Trubiz that I wouldn't endorse, like have really good elements that are worth seeing. This game, there's nothing I think that's worth seeing, unfortunately. So Snowfall's Mystery, definitely the worst game I've ever played.
No endorsement.
I'm really sorry.
But that's, I mean, hopefully what we're here for listeners wanting to play the game, maybe not the devs who made the game. Yeah, we feel bad not being able to endorse, but, you know, we're playing some of these games so that we can hopefully guide you, the listeners, wanting to play new games to ones that will be worth your time and money.
Well, thanks for listening. Next week, we're going to be playing Anode Heart's Layer Null, which is I think, Digimon-inspired card battler, which, if it sounds right up my alley, it's because it is. And we've started playing a little bit of it. I won't say my thoughts right now, but look forward to it. Play along with us if you want. It is.
You can probably hear Johnny's thoughts in his voice.
Don't miss playing along with this one.
You can already guess how the next pod is going to go.
And we'll see you then. So thanks for listening. We are not planning on, taking a 2-week break again, really anytime. So we'll be here weekly.
Grinding out those games, sifting through the bargain bin, hitting up GameStop, digging deep in the back room. GameStop being the Steam database library.
We'll be doing that for the indefinite future, and we're excited to have you along on the journey with us. If you want to support the show, you can tell a friend. You can give us a little rating here and there on your podcast app of choice, or you can send me an email about like what you want to hear at soildayradio soildayradio@gmail.com. That is soildayradio@gmail. Thanks for listening.
Love y'all. Bye.
Soil Day Radio.
For a community of weirdos built on words. Find out more at soildayradio.com.